This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
We got a new world champion.
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby. It's the real deal, baby.
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, though? It isn't a Tuesday. Today is a Wednesday, coming at you on a different day from our normal slot. But we've got a lot to talk about today. Shout out to the homie Bulletproof Troop for the link. With all that said, you got NWA Samhain coming down this weekend, and who better to talk to than the lady who might be your new NWA Women's Champion come the end of said pay-per-view. So, with the debut on the show, we've got Miss Ruthie Jay. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Can't complain other than this rainy-ass weather we got here in Michigan, which is nothing new here. We ain't doing all right. We ain't doing too bad. How are you, Corey? You all right?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Just trying to get the little ones together with homework, trying to shuffle that together to make sure I can hop on this show. But other than that, doing well.
You got to love it. What up, though? Chris checking in from Massachusetts. This guy, I swear, man, he might be taking Donald's spot for, like, top knockouts and 3 counts, fan. I swear. Even though Ed's got it on his license plate, bro, I mean, I feel like Chris might be, like, taking that spot. But
hey, that's not a bad spot to have, right?
You're not wrong.
Oof.
But with that said, you know, like I said, everybody, you said it yourself before we went live, everybody's dealing with it. With that said, the first thing I want to talk about before we get to NWA and before we get to NWA Samhain is I always like to hear, like, where people are, what is it that hooked people into wrestling? Not just why did you get into wrestling? Because I swear to God, that's so overdone. I just mean the simple of, it's one thing to why you wanted to get into wrestling, but what was it that what hooked you into wrestling?
Are you talking to me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was like, it's not a him.
My bad.
No, you're good. I'm a
I was paramiming for a minute.
I always watched it as a kid. You know, as a kid, everybody watches it. You know, you think it's cool, you think it's real. And then I came here to, like, America when I was like 4, and I didn't speak, like, any English. But wrestling was, like, so universal. You know who to cheer, who to boo, without even having the knowledge of what's going on, because it's so universal.
When it's done right.
When it's done right, yes. But yeah, back then I watched it so much as a kid. My babysitter used to put it on all the time, like at night, and it always caught my attention. When I grew up, I never grew out of that.
Do you got a specific person that really hooked you? Because, like, for me, I can tell you Stone Cold was it for me. Like, I grew up right in the middle of the Attitude Era was when I first started watching, about 98, and it was Stone Cold, it was The Rock, it was Triple H, and then obviously as I've gotten older, I've went and watched all the other stuff. But was there anybody in specific that hooked you?
I always say I have a top 5.
Okay,
never one person.
That's fair.
It's always
That's
top
fair.
5. It's Kurt Angle, Trish Stratus, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Jericho. Top 5.
That's a hell of a list.
Not to say he's not impressive, because he absolutely was. And even me being more the MMA side on the show, I feel like Kurt Angle's somebody that stands out to me. But to hear a female wrestler kind of point him out as one of their top 5 is kind of surprising to me.
He's a GOAT for sure.
You can't go wrong with Kurt Angle.
Never.
No.
Criminally underrated.
Yeah, and when you look at his actual collegiate wrestling side, his Olympic wrestling side, and then you factor in the fact that he turned that into such a successful professional wrestling career after the fact, I mean,
right?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with somebody like that for sure.
Andy was going to fight in the UFC at one point too. A lot of people don't know that. The season of the season of the Ultimate Fighter that had Kimbo Slice on it was also going to have Kurt Angle on it, except Kurt Angle had already accepted his deal with TNA. So because he had already agreed to his deal with TNA, he didn't fight on the Ultimate Fighter, because the other thing was Kurt Angle wasn't going to just come on that show like a lot of those guys. You're not getting paid. to be on the Ultimate Fighter. So, like, you know, for him to come in, you know, he was going to have to get paid in order for him to be fighting. But what's crazy about that is, like, so many people, hell, Riddle too, coming through the Ultimate Fighter. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see how Kurt would have done in a cage, especially after what we saw with Brock, dude. I feel like we might have missed out a little bit just to see what would have happened, even if it was only once.
It would have been interesting.
I mean, if nothing else, he'd be able to get somebody down, take them down, and hold them down, which a lot of times is winning you fights. But I feel like you know what we saw in that movie Warrior, he could get going with it. But back to you. So with that said, before we get to NWA, I also know that you're the current reigning defending Coastal Championship Wrestling champion as well. So tell me about that. Tell me about winning the championship there in your reign so far. And do you have any thoughts on Mila Monroe after, or yeah, that's what I said, right? And that, with that said, Mila Moore, excuse me, I said it wrong.
Mila Moore.
Yes, good Lord, I'm bad with names sometimes, but you know where I'm going.
You're on the right.
I saw the videos. I was watching. I was watching the Instagram when I was doing my stuff, doing my research while we were on lunch, and I saw that you guys already had a little bit of scuffle. She's coming for that belt. Tell me how you're feeling with it.
You know, I just won the title the beginning of the year. I'm not the end of the year. The beginning of the month. Like October just starts. I win a title, the CCW Women's Championship. I defend it. I have my first title defense literally a week after that. I'm happy. I'm in the ring celebrating a little bit. And here she comes all mad and attacks me from behind. So, you know, I had to get my lick backstage and get her back. But, you know, now it's on site. So if she wants me for the title at the next show that we have, or whatever show we have next at CCW, it's on site.
So tell me a little bit about CCW. So I've got a few of the homies that are down there. So I've been watching pretty closely what they had going down there. Obviously, Bulletproof Troop, but also our friend, the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow, who was just up here in Detroit too. So tell us a little bit about CCW and what they got going down there, man, because I keep hearing about it even all the way up here in Detroit.
Well, CCW is kind of unique. It's a great place to wrestle in Florida because we have so many different venues, and that's not heard of with like a lot of indie wrestling, especially like places that can draw every month, and it's not one venue, it's multiple venues. So CCW is very unique for that, especially for wrestlers trying to get their foot into the door. You have all these different crowds you can work in front of to fill it out, to fill out your character, your mic skills, anything you need to do. Like CCW in Florida, and it goes to Nashville as well. Like, it's a brand that's unheard of, like, for the independent circuit in wrestling.
I mean, they're doing something right, because like I said, all the way up here in Detroit, I keep seeing and hearing and seeing so many of the people that we have on the show showing up over there, man. So I had to ask what it is that is bringing people over there like that. But we've got bigger fish to fry, or more importantly, so do you this weekend, because you might have you've got a chance here at the NWA Women's Championship. So before we get to your match, tell me about being with NWA, because right now it seems like it's a great time to be with the NWA. I mean, we're hearing rumors of TV deals and all these things from Billy Corgan and all that stuff. They just had the Smashing Pumpkins tour. Tell me about being with the NWA, and then we'll talk a little bit about your match.
So I got signed around, like, I would believe March or April. No, I lied. Around June. So early summer I got signed. And that's when I did the tour with the World is a Vampire. Like, being signed was honestly so unexpected because I only worked for them like 2 or 3 times before that. And I was only doing like extra work or like just doing extra matches for them for their tapings. And then I got an opportunity to wrestle in this Hardcore Rules team match on their pay-per-view because somebody else got injured, unfortunately. But that's when I really like had their attention, like, hey, maybe we should pay attention to this girl. And they did. And later that week, I literally got a phone call from talent agent saying, hey, we want to sign you. And I will never forget that morning. I literally woke up to that phone call and I was like, wow. That was amazing.
I mean, clearly they're paying attention. If you're already on the title trajectory just a couple months basically into your run with the organization. So
Yeah, getting signed was cool, and now the actual process of being signed, it's cool too. You get to go on on tour, and you get to do the tapings, and the pay-per-view weekends are always fun. And everybody backstage is so professional, so helpful. Nobody's really rude. There's really nothing saucy or like heating up backstage. You never hear us on, PW Insider like, oh, this person has heat, da 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 da. You never hear that about NWA because it's like so chill. Like there's really no heat, no beef with anybody. Everybody's so professional backstage.
Well,
what?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what do you think that boils into? Is that just the fact of who's getting signed and the fact of they kind of all know how to play within this organization together, or what do you think plays into the fact that, like you say, the back room being as chill as it is and kind of allowing the organization to grow while continuing to let people like you begin to really show their star power, I guess you could say?
I would say the egos. Egos are in check because literally all wrestling is, anytime you can see it goes bad, is because of somebody's ego. Oh, I don't like how this guy is talking to me. This guy needs to respect me. That ego. I feel like everybody's ego is in check when it comes to like NWA and like our backstage area or our locker room, especially with the female locker room, because not even gonna lie to you, sometimes the men can be worse than the females. So it's like, yeah. Egos. I think all of our egos are in check.
I mean, everybody's got a little bit of ego, and you ain't wrong. I mean, with everything you hear that from, with what happened with CM Punk to all the other stuff, somebody's pissed off at what somebody else said, whether who knows what was really said or whatever. It all boils down to somebody didn't like something that somebody else said, and that's how they ended up in the spot you're at. So you're 100% right on that one. But with that said, I mean, it's a great place for you guys to be in when you guys are talking about TV deals and stuff like that. With that said, with NWA putting out a product that's like studio wrestling and stuff, how do you feel about studio wrestling, and what do you think NWA is going to bring that's going to set them out apart in these TV deals?
I think the talent is going to set us apart from the TV deals, because right now we're bringing in new, fresh faces, and we still keep the old ones, of course, to guide the newer faces. But we also have like a great abundance of new and old, because NWA is like a 75-year-old company, so we have a lot of people tuning in that have watched it from older times, and new people tuning in that's never seen it before. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we have at NWA: a young crowd and an old crowd. So that's something that's very unique that I say that NWA has that a lot of wrestling companies don't have.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Kyle. It's a hard thing to do, to kind of, like you're saying, keep the hardcore fans happy, the people that tune in week to week, and keep them tuned in, keep them interested and stuff like that, while also, to your point, trying to drag in new eyeballs every week. That's a hard balance to really play.
It is. And right now we're doing a good job because we're still keeping people like eyes on the company, on the product, and people are loving the production of everything. It's still new, and it still gives you that old flavor of NWA, so they're not too away from their roots and everything. Like with the flags, every different kind of flag, you still see the outline of old NWA still today present.
Speaking of that, in the old school of NWA, like I said, I mean, I grew up on Attitude Era stuff, but I went back and I've watched everything from Bunkhouse Stampede and all the stuff from the 80s with Flair and Dusty and all that stuff. Have you gotten down with any of the old NWA stuff?
No, I didn't go back that down. No,
yeah,
not before
man.
my time. That's too.
It was before my time too, so I feel you.
I'm not trying to call you old. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Yeah, I mean, hey, usually, I mean, most places we go, I still get carded even though I'm 31, so it's all right. All right. So with that said, talk to me about becoming the number one contender for the title, because you faced a past guest of the show in Natalia Markova as well as Miss Kate. Tell me about that match. Tell me about getting the number one contendership, and how are you feeling headed into facing Kenzie Paige?
Honestly, when I won the match, I couldn't believe it, because part of me was just like, both of these women have been here, longer than me and are like top talent at NWA. Last time I checked, literally, Natalia had a match with Camille twice in a row, literally, back to back, on the pay-per-view for the NWA World Championship with Camille. So she's like up there, you know? And then Missa, she is a former NWA Tag Team Champion. So in my head, I'm like, these are two top caliber female wrestlers here in your company, and I'm winning the match? So I was like, wow, you know, that was like mind-blowing to me. Back to what I said, like you said earlier, I just got signed. So that was like mind-blowing to me. And then when I won and now I'm on this journey, I'm the #1 contender, I feel amazing. Like nothing can stop me when I'm heading into this match. I feel great. Going into this match, I feel 100% confident.
I like it. And with that said, I mean, you already got that champ mentality like we talked about a little bit earlier. I mean, this is now just a bigger stage. So now tell me about Kenzie Paige. How do you feel about her being the champion? I mean, her being able to get the title after Camille having such a dominant reign. How do you feel about this match, and how do you see it playing out?
I mean, for her to win the title and dethrone Camille after almost 2 years with the title, I feel like it makes sense. Like, she's been there since the beginning of the Corgan era of NWA. And she's won every single title there. Like, now she's a Triple Crown champion. It makes sense, you know? You know, the way that she won it, I don't agree with because, you know, I have integrity, but.
One of the three eyes.
Exactly. You see, you know.
See, I pay attention.
But it got the job done, and now she's champion. She's walking around with her pretty empowered hyenas, like they're the top of the company with the tag team champions and the world champion all hostage. So I give it to her.
Now, talk me real quick through your mental process. Like you say, you've made this rise so fast through the company at this point. You win that match like you did in your last one. How do you kind of deal with that? How you said, like, I'm already here type of mentality while also keeping your ego in check at the same time?
It goes back to you being humbled about what you do, because at any second, God forbid, you can get hurt. Mm-hmm. God forbid, you can get sick. Any second, this can get taken away from you, you know? And it could be anybody else but you. Like, for me, I fortunately got the opportunity to wrestle because I replaced somebody else in a match that they were supposed to be in. Unfortunately, Rosan Negra, like, she was in a car accident and she was unable to wrestle, and I was put in her place where I was able to shine through and got the opportunity with NWA. And that will always humble me because that could have not happened. The universe, it just happened like that. So everything happens for a reason. You just got to be humble because good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. But sometimes good things can happen to bad people. You just want to be a good person.
Totally respect it. Rosan Negra is one of our homies, man. We've been rocking with her since the Shine and Evolve days. So definitely got all the well wishes with the car accident and all that stuff for her as well. That's
it
nuts.
Just sucks. Like, you know, like part of me is like, you know, I didn't do it. Of course, the universe happens like that, but like the opportunity for me came like that. So that always sticks to the back of my head a little bit. You get what I'm saying?
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get shots where you get shots, and opportunities only come around so often in pro wrestling. So if you're getting a shot that could put you towards a world title, I say take it.
I mean, besides pro wrestling and just sports in general, I mean, you look at some of the greatest in the world, like Tom Brady, for instance. He was in that same position. He was waiting on the sidelines, essentially, and then eventually got his spot because of an injury. And like you say, we may have never seen what he ended up becoming. He may have just been a bench rider for the rest of his career had that opportunity never came. So like you say, opportunity, when it presents itself, whether opportune or not, you got to be able to take advantage of that timing and really showcase yourself, despite maybe being sad or whatever the case for, you know, somebody dealing with the loss of that position. It is what it is. It's the name of sport.
Right.
You got to love it, though. Like I said, take them where you can get them. But now that we've talked about that, we've talked about you winning the NWA Women's Championship. Before we get out of that, I mean, obviously, like you said, you didn't like the way Kenzie won the title. And so with that said, now as you head into this, do you feel like you're going to need any extra backup going into this one? Do you got a game plan for that kind of stuff? Or are you already kind of...
Well, honestly, I don't think I need any backup because I can handle my own, you know. But I do have a game plan for this because me and Kenzie, we're not strangers to each other. I know what she can do in the ring. She knows what I can do in the ring. And so when we go out there, I just know she's willing to do whatever it takes. So I got to watch my back. Anything she might do or anything she might unravel, I just got to watch my back.
I like it. She said she didn't need the help. I don't know, man. That's what's always so funny when it comes to being a champion. You know, you see it all. You've seen it on the men's side. You see it on the women's side. People always having that extra insurance policy, whether that be a tag partner, whether that be the hired help or the big henchman, man. You never know what's going to happen. Even when the ladies get down, I see what Kenzie's trying to do. That's one of the matches that we're looking forward to most, as most of you guys know from our socials as well. Kerry Morton and Alex Taylor of the Southern Six will be joining us tomorrow night as well. So if you guys are watching Samhain, you guys definitely got to hit the subscribe button here. But with that said, you know, we also like to talk about what people are doing outside of the ring as well. And it's almost Halloween in this mug. So before we get to Samhain, tell me, are you a Halloween fan? Do you like haunted houses? What are we doing for spooky season?
So honestly, I'm not doing anything only because I've celebrated Halloween in the past and it hasn't sat right with my spirit because I didn't grow up celebrating Halloween because of religious purposes. Okay. So like now I just said, okay, let me chill out. I want God to do good things in my life, so let me stop playing with God.
I can totally respect that.
That's one thing. All right, to change the subject of the show completely. That's one thing that's always kind of been a curiosity of mine. I see, like, there's even neighbors of mine, for instance, where they decorate their house, but they decorate it for autumn. You know, everything's with the leaves and stuff like that. It's not Halloween decorations. You know, like they lean in that direction instead. Like, what, as a kid, when you were growing up, seeing all the other kids doing the Halloween traditions and stuff like that, did that impact you in any way? And then also, now that you are older and like you say, you've done kind of the other side of it and now you're back deciding not to celebrate it, talk me through that process a little bit.
You know what, I would love to talk you through that process because I never thought about it like that until you asked me. Because as a kid, you know, I just thought it was cool. You get to dress up, you get to trick or treat, and I never got to go trick or treating, of course, but like I just thought it was cool. But then as an adult, I think about the thought process of what's going on here. Like in a religious perspective, like I'm like, we're dressing up our children as demons and goblins and fairies and all these things that they're not. But like, why? One day out of the year for what? And then they're supposed to go around saying something like trick or treat. That doesn't even sound right. So it's like, you know, like part of me is like, it doesn't sit right with my spirit. It's just not right. How come this one day out of the year and we're being told it's okay to dress like something demonic, something ugly, but every other day it's awful.
Yeah. It's always been a weird thing to me to see because I did not grow up religious like that, so I did grow up on the other side of it, and it's always been something that's been a curiosity of mine, I guess, to the families that choose not to celebrate. You know, like what goes on in that decision, I guess you could say.
No, I'm glad you asked me. Thank you.
Oh no, that's one thing. When, like I said in the beginning of the show, I cover the show as more of the MMA guy. So whenever we do have wrestlers on here, I try to more so listen into their stories and what makes them lean into, you know, being the person that they are and choosing the life essentially that they did in pro wrestling and stuff. I feel like it's an interesting choice for somebody to make, you know, and I feel like all those little decisions along the lines of even like whether or not to celebrate Halloween, all that leans into the person that you end up being
in the ring.
Definitely does.
Yeah.
No, and I totally respect it because I'm a Christian myself. Anybody that knows me outside the show, they know what time it is, you know. And for me, like I've never been somebody like me and J-Bone for the last couple of years, we go to a Halloween party down there in Pontiac, just go out, have a good time, that kind of stuff. But I totally can understand on the other side of it though, because you're right. In reality, even though whether it's you like candy, you like haunted houses, you all that stuff. For me, I think that's what it's gotten to be as I've gotten older. I think I like the haunted houses and stuff like that more than I do like Halloween or that necessarily. You know what I mean? So like I usually have like my couple run of like I'll go to a haunted house, and then the last couple years we've hit that Halloween party, and then that's been pretty much it for me. When back in the day, my dad was like the biggest. The house had to be all lit up, and he had all the, we had the whole deal. So I could totally see both sides of it. Being somebody that, like I said, I was a leader in our church for quite a while too. So I've seen some of the kids that I had in groups where they were like you, who didn't celebrate it at all, and then others where it's the complete other side. So definitely interesting and cool. Cool little sidebar on that one. Definitely wasn't expecting that one.
It's like the opposite of Christmas. It's like they both got commercialized and both became this different thing than what they were originally intended to be. And like you were saying, if you kind of dig into what Halloween used to be, it used to be a lot spookier, we'll call it. But now it's just little kids dressing up in costumes and knocking on the door to get a piece of candy. So like, it's in maybe, a reason for people to hit the town for a night or whatever the case be. But, it's funny the different scales of it, because one being, I guess, anti-religious back in the day with Halloween, and Christmas being ultra realist or religious back in the day. And now I feel like they're both just commercialized holidays.
No, for sure they're both commercialized. Somebody needs to make a profit. Capitalism.
Somebody's always making money, even if they're taking money out of my pocket. All right. I mean, let's face it. You got to think about it that way in 2023, because it seems like everything's getting nothing but more expensive. With that said, Corey was the one bringing up the fact that he is more of the MMA side of our show. Do you get down with the fight side of stuff, whether that be boxing, MMA, any of that stuff?
Honestly, no. I don't really watch boxing or MMA or anything like that. The only thing I probably watched was like MMA, but like early when like Ronda was still in the UFC. Mm-hmm. But that was about it.
I feel like Ronda's the name you always hear, whether it's with female wrestlers, female fighters. We just had Zoe Nowicki on with us last week, who is competing in the World Combat Games for Team USA, and she's said the same thing. The effect that Ronda Rousey had.
She was everywhere back then.
Such a trailblazer.
Did you follow when she made her transition into professional wrestling?
Yeah, I watched her first match. I was literally so excited because she was teaming with Kurt Angle.
Yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah,
I was there for that one, man. I just remember looking at it like, wow, this is going to be interesting. I just want to see how this is going to look, because obviously being somebody who comes from the fight side of it, I was just like, how is this going to work? Is she going to be able to still like integrate her throws like she does? Because you had to know she was going to come in doing a lot of the stuff like MMA, the same as Brock, was kind of a lot more MMA based once he came back after fighting as well. So she's definitely the one that we hear people hitting. So before we let you get out of here, we also got one other segment on the show as well. We call it Locker Room Etiquette, but it's not what you would think. It's whether it be pet peeves, whether that be things that piss you off, whether that be advice that you got or anything of the sort. Now, I'll give you some of the examples we've already gotten, and everybody from the Woad to Josh Briggs and them from NXT and everything in between. We got all kinds of different answers. We've gotten wash your balls, keep your baby mama out the locker room, bring your own squirt bottle, bring your own wrist tape. Make sure that you, obviously all the other ones like shake everybody's hands and all that stuff. Silas Young said never to get too comfortable. Ninja Max said to always still be training. So there's all kinds of different ones. Do you have any?
I agree with the keep your baby mama out the locker room one. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that one. Or somebody's gonna go to court, but
or somebody's gonna go to court.
What would be my number one advice?
Yeah,
it would don't shit where you eat. Just don't fuck anything. Don't shit where you eat. So that's it. That's my number one advice.
I feel like that goes for any job place, though.
No,
like,
specifically wrestling, though, because your mind has to be mentally there. You don't want to be thinking. Plus, you want to be aggressive. You want to be a monster, beast in there. You don't want to be all soft. You don't shit where you eat.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. That's fun. It's funny because, you know, like I said, I swear to God, I feel like this applies for both in life and in wrestling, because I swear, man, I've seen it. I work at the post office, and I've seen this happen a few times, and let me just tell you, it never ends well. Like, unless you're like full on married or whatever, like, it never ends well. And so I'm convinced, I don't care whether it's wrestling, whether it's fighting, whether it's whatever, that shit don't never work. Don't work in fighting either, because then if you train together or they come to the gym, then there's always the temptation of other motherfuckers that way either. So, like I said, in my opinion, I feel like that is a good rule any way it goes. So, I appreciate the time. I see you trying to get your hours in and all that stuff, so we appreciate you still coming through.
To end. That's why I was like,
see, no, you're straight. No, I got you. You're straight. We appreciate the time, so I will leave the floor to you. If you've got any last words for your opponent or anybody who's on the fence to watch NWA Samhain, let them know what time it is.
Is it Samhain or Samhain? Because I'm like, I don't know how to.
It's spelled Samhain,
no,
so I'm guessing Samhain, but I don't know.
Pronounces it Samhain.
Okay, so I could be saying it wrong. I could totally be saying it wrong, but I'm not sure, to be honest. When they came up with the name of it, I don't know if I was the only one thinking that, but I was like, what the hell is
I'm on it. I have to talk about it, and I still don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay, so at least I don't feel bad, all right? Because I honestly didn't know. I was wondering if you did.
No, I didn't.
It's all good. But the pay-per-view is going to be badass. You know, we've got your match. We've got past guests of the show, EC3 defending the NWA belt. Like I said, let everybody know what time it is for this weekend and what they're going to see between you and Kenzie Paige.
You're going to see a 5-star match with the 5-star athlete, Ruthie Jay, and I'm going to come out on top with the NWA World Women's Championship, because you forgot to say world last time. You kept saying women's champion. It's NWA World Women's Champion.
The world.
Yes.
World.
Top flight security of the world, Craig. I appreciate it. We'll definitely do it again soon when you got more time on your hands. Get your dollars. Let them know where to find you real quick before we get out of here.
You can find me on Instagram at Ruthie_all_smiles. You can find me on Twitter at Superior Queen, Queen with the W. You can find me on Facebook at Ruthie Jay.
You heard it. Hit the follows, hit all those things. Make sure you're checking out our sponsors in the Lillians.co. Shout out to Bruce Buffer. Go buy a damn shirt. In the meantime and in between time, check us back out tomorrow, 9 p.m. We got the Southern Six coming through. Hit the motherfucking button. Peace.